Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. It'll be about the Ultramarines and why I like them but not on the tabletop. Now as a preface, like with my previous videos, my one on the Blood Angels and my other one on the Black Templars, I've not read any novels that relate to the Ultramarines. I've not firsthand read anything that directly pertains to them. A lot of my knowledge and information comes from memes and other secondhand sources, so what I may say could be inaccurate. I do apologize in advance, but I hope you guys enjoy my little thoughts and opinion on the Ultramarines. Now, with the Ultramarines, what about them do I like that doesn't necessarily pertain to tabletop? Number one, their pseudo Roman aesthetic of the Ultramarines is very cool. Now, that is also in part due to, or mainly due to, Rute Gilliman being raised on Macragge, which itself was as far as I know, a very Roman-esque feudal world during the Great Crusade time. Their heraldry and colors being one very Roman inspired, but two just the cobalt and blue with white heraldry looks sick. Now, obviously, it's different, depending on company of Ultramarines, and if they're a sergeant or a lieutenant, they have red or white on them on their helmets more often, so that changes it up. But generally, their heraldry and colors look really good. For characters, like in character talk, Rabute Gilliman, everyone jokes about him and jokes about his name and everything. It is funny to joke about because it is sort of hard to get to pronounce correctly at first. Um, I think he's an interesting character. Of the characters I know of in 40k that are big characters and do have a lot of relevance in the plot and the narrative for any one particular faction, Rabute Gilman is interesting to me. Now, from what I know of him in the Heresy and in current, 40k, what makes him boring in the Heresy is seemingly what makes him interesting in 40k. The fact being that he's a good statesman, tactician, general kind of person goes a long way, and now granted, I think what makes that interesting for him in 40k is because in 40k he's, as far as I know, one of the few like truly competent leader like figures in the Imperium. To that end, I also do think that, because of that status and because, he is the Lord Regent of the Imperium, if I'm not mistaken, he could unironically fix some of the Imperium's problems, and I believe he has with some rulings and motions carried forth. That isn't to say that he can fix all of the Imperium's problems, and some problems take a lot longer to fix than others, but I do think that, Rabute Gilliman, besides some logistical and tactical errors, in my opinion, of train of thought, he could realistically be the one to fix the Imperium, and if there was any named major character, potentially besides the Emperor, who could be brought back to fix the Imperium, Rabute Gilman would, in my opinion, be the best choice of a loyalist Primarch to bring back to try to get things back in order for the Imperium. And thirdly for him, he has ultra depression. That makes it kind of funny, makes it sad for him as a character, but it is funny, and it is also to a degree relatable, of just feeling so remorseful, I would say, of just how things went, and to regret that much about how things could have gone so much differently with the Imperium since the Heresy and the Scouring. For another character that I find interesting and or funny is Marneus Calgar. Marneus Calgar, from everything I've ever been told or shown of him, it just seems like funnily overpowered from what I've heard and like seen. Maybe a lot of it's inaccurate because it's like from memes or from like very much paraphrased and not entirely accurate memes. But he he seems stupid strong for him being a chapter master. And granted, he's a chapter master, so he's gonna have some level of plot armor. It's not too different from Commander Dante, but at least Commander Dante has like the uh the excuse of like, oh, Sanguinius, like seemingly the spirit of Sanguinius is basically just like, no, you can't die yet, Dante. You have still so much still to do. Calgar is just like, I'm based. I have an iron halo. I'm that guy. And he's time and time again, to the chagrin of many people, proven that yeah, I guess he is that guy. As to why I like the Ultramarines in lore and whatnot is that they are basically the standard when it comes to Space Marines. Very adaptable in combat and their tactics. Now, granted, that's a good and bad thing. It's good because since they're so adaptable, since they're able to approach a situation from multiple different theoreticals and hypotheticals and put it into practice and to work it out, they can, given some time, work it out through a situation, unless the odds are so overwhelmingly against them that it's like, yeah, no, the odds of victory are basically zero or whatever have you, or the mission is damn near a failure. Now that's also a bad thing because they don't specialize in any one thing technically. So, as the old adage goes, a jack of all trades is a master of none. Ultramarines may be good tacticians and like statesmen and politicians, basically. That's good, but that does lend themselves to being good at everything but not great at necessarily one thing. And then lastly, just as a point, Space Marine 2 as a video game, it's centered around the blueberries. Who doesn't love Lieutenant Titus? I know there are people out there who don't, but fuck Leandros. Screw that guy. Why did I start with Ultramarines instead of the Blood Angels or Black Templars? As I said in previous videos, I started with the Ultramarines because I wanted to start with a good balanced army and then see where I fell on the game after a couple matches and after learning how to play the game. Very quickly found myself leaning towards I like melee. Mainly because I think that an army that's so centered around shooting makes the game unfun for you and unfun for the opponent. Now, and I say that in the sense of unfun for you because you have to play so many different angles and try to get good shooting lanes, and depending on map terrain, that may not really be an option. And it's unfun for the opponent because if they are playing an army that needs to get close or needs to position in certain ways, if you're playing a very heavy shooting army, you could potentially just shoot them off the board. They don't really get opportunities to ever actually do anything and basically play the game, and that is a rough feeling. As someone who's fought a Necron army that does a heavy amount of shooting and was very hard to shift, that did not feel very fun. And as someone who's fought the Tau at least one time, that didn't feel good, but at least I was able to fight back like decently well and like be able to move up on the board thanks to good, decent positioning on my part. Second, like, big reason why I started with the Ultramarines instead of the Black Templars or Blood Angels, they're the poster boys of 40k. I mean, the Ultramarines are basically like the face of Warhammer. Whether you like it or not, just kind of is what it is. At the time, and then the third, and this is probably the biggest reason besides wanting to start a balanced army, at the time when I was getting into like the process of learning 40k, they were my most favorite Space Marine chapter. Now, that changed shortly after like the process of learning how to play 40k, but it also changed because at around the same time I was starting to see more content and memes that related to the Blood Angels or the Black Templars or other Space Marine chapters. And so overall from there, my horizons were expanded upon, and there was that. And then with the gameplay aspect of it, it led into just, I didn't like Gladius Task Force too much, and I didn't like Oath of Moment, and so that's why I moved away from it. Now, will I play them again? Like, will I go back to playing Ultramarines? And the real answer is probably not. Probably not, mainly because I am not a fan of how reliant the Ultramarines are, specifically as an army, Uh, I do not like how reliant they are on Oath of Moment, and how that bleeds over into being really reliant on Rabute Gilliman and or Marnius Calgar. At least as of right now, as of the most recent or second most recent data slate, you cannot have both Rabute Gilliman and Marnius Calgar in your army and have both their abilities active at the same time. That was a big turnoff for me when getting into 40k, because when I was getting into 40k, I didn't want to basically play Hero Hammer. Like, if I had characters in my army, I wanted them to be basically like generic captains or lieutenants, because I wanted them to be my guys. That's also a big reason why I've jumped to Chaos Space Marines, because Chaos Space Marines to me were an army that allowed you to basically make them your guys and things work, because they don't have so many named characters. But that was the big reason for like tabletop stuff, was just I didn't like the idea of like, oh well, Rabute Gilliman and or Marnius are basically like must picks to make Oath of Moment feel good or make stratagem usages be better. It just didn't feel right, and it felt like a tax on an army, if you were list building. So there was that. But since I know I prefer melee, now in a more aggressive army, I probably wouldn't go back and play Ultramarines. That's not to say that I can't make a melee oriented Ultramarines list, but just not in the cards. I'd play Blood Angels, Black Templars, or Space Wolves before I go back to playing Ultramarines. But with that, guys, that'll be the end of my dialogue, end of my voiceover, not the end of the B-roll. You guys can feel free to enjoy that after that. But for those of you stuck around and listened to the rambles of a guy, very much appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to the end. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Ultramarines. Are they your favorite Space Marine chapter? Do you prefer other Space Marine chapters? What are the reasons for that? Feel free to let me know. Also, feel free to leave any suggestions for like stories or novels to try to look into. It doesn't have to pertain to Ultramarines. It could be Black Templars, could be Space Wolves, or content creators. I do know of Luton. He is, I know, the lore master of 40k, and I've watched and heard, fell asleep more like to some of his videos. But feel free to let me know in the comment section down below just what your thoughts are on the Ultramarines or other Space Marine chapters. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Feel free to like and subscribe. That you don't have to, but it does go a long way to help me know, hey, you guys are interested in this content. You guys are interested in seeing more of this content. It does help. I do sincerely mean that. But with that, guys, I hope you guys have a great time wherever you may find yourselves, whether that be the tabletop, whether that be gaming, browsing YouTube, chilling with the family. Hope you guys have a wonderful time. But until the next time, see you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.
Ammunition restocked. Our foes will gain no further forces. Put your fire, brother. That is heretical behavior. Observation platform within the Preface fields. It will make a good vantage for your ambush. Advance on our objectives. Interlock flagged. Stand behind me. Fresh cartridge. Senior weapon malfunction. Xenos biomass on scope. Skitter to the brain, Xenos. We have arrived at Nozick's facility. Run distraction efforts as long as you can.
Your plan is sound, brother. The swarm will be broken.
I will hold you to that.
Now we wait until the Xenos swarm reaches our position.
Us against 100,000 or 200,000 Tyranids. I like those odds even without the bomb.
Confidence is a weapon. Overconfidence is a disadvantage.
That is heretical behavior.
Take heart. The flame will stand against them. Better than any war.
For the Emperor! For the Emperor!
Stim cache here.
I concur. No telling what surprises. Orders acknowledged.
Come on! We have reached the ambush position. Dig in. We need that bomb triggered for optimal yield. Orbital scan estimates the bulk of the swarm will not be in position for a while yet. Keep your heads and get it done. Enemies have split from the main force. Prepare to intercept!
The walls will not stop them for long. Tyranids behind our front line.
Promethium is floating. Light its grid. The bulk of the swarm is continuing along the predicted path. Continue holding. They're not me!
Reload. Behind us, brothers.
Unleashing fresh grenades!
Fuel controls reset.
position.
Eagle's countermeasures successful.
Brothers, they are almost overthrown.
Hold them on! We will push them back! The swarm has almost finished. I have the Prometheus ready. Be ready for my mark.
Back, ready to deploy.
See your weapon out. Burning the Tyranids. Inserting rounds. We may use the system to set another trap. You are clear to detonate. Cook those rotten bastards.
We end this now.
Quarters reporting in. Our operation